Welcome to a basic look, the show where we look at Dungeons and Dragons from a simple perspective. I'm your host, Wally. The constant question of any player, especially new players, is what class should I play? Glad you asked. There are 12 classes to choose from in Dungeons and Dragons. I will be covering these classes over a video series. This series will avoid overcomplicating the topics by giving a basic overview of each class's abilities while at second level. I chose second level because it's before specific subclass paths are chosen and subclasses get complicated. And we are here for a simple explanation. Our first class will be the Barbarian. We will look at how they're described in the player's handbook, what the basic abilities are, and then we'll look at some stereotypes of the Barbarian and maybe a different way of how to play him. Now, the Dungeons and Dragons player handbook states as follows for the Barbarian. It says, the Barbarian is a fierce warrior of primitive background who can enter a battle rage. And that's just how they're described by the handbook. The Barbarian is usually a melee fighter who relies and is known for their rages. Now, we'll get to the rages later. The player's handbook also gives a brief, quick build to how to build your Barbarian. The highest stat you have should be Strength, and then followed by Constitution. The reason you would choose Strength is because it will help you with your attacks the most. It will help you how well you hit and how much damage you do. That's why you choose Strength. And Constitution is next because it will increase the health amount you have in your Barbarian. It's really straightforward and simple. But also with the Barbarian, it will make you harder to hit. It's one thing that's special about the Barbarian. And at second level, the Barbarian will get 2 rages per every long rest. Now, let's look at a long rest right quick. A long rest is an in-game sleeping time of 8 hours. So your character has to rest for 8 hours before raging again after raging 2 times. A lot to keep in mind there. However, when raging, if a barbarian is not wearing any armor, this means he will gain resistance to the following attacks: bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Now, resistance means you take half damage. That means a lot in combat. You will love halving all your damage. You also get advantage on strength and checks, and you have advantage on the saving throws. Advantage, simply put, means you get to roll twice. So if you roll a really low number while you're raging on a strength saving throw and you need to roll again, well, if you have advantage while you're raging, you can, and maybe you'll get a higher number this time. And you get to take the highest roll when you roll with advantage. So it's really a character lifesaver at that point. Now, the thing about rages is not only do you only get 2, they run out after 1 minute. Now, keep in mind an average in-game time, 1 round, meaning everybody on the board making their move, is 6 seconds. So for a minute, you get 10 rounds of combat in your rage. But there's more. With a rage, you have to keep attacking every round or be attacked every round, or your rage will peter out and leave. It is a purely combat ability, in my opinion, and you just have to keep in mind just these few things of always be attacking. Always try to attack somebody, or have it where they will probably most likely attack you. Also, for good measure, just in case for some reason your barbarian is special, you can't cast any magic spells or maintain any spells while raging. Spells take brain power, and your rage is just taking pure emotion, and that's kind of why. Now, there's still 2 more abilities that Barbarian gets at level 2, and they're pretty cool. First one is Reckless Attack. Reckless Attack means on the first attack of every turn, you can roll with advantage on somebody you're attacking. So you have to state it before, at least that's how it's been ruled for me. You have to state, I'm doing a reckless attack against this goblin. Well, that means you get to roll twice. Whichever rolls higher, you get to take it and see if you hit the goblin. Now, that also means after you make that attack, if that goblin or one of his buddies attacks you before your next round, they have advantage too. So if you attack goblin with reckless attack, you get advantage. But if they attack you right back, the first one to attack you gets advantage on their attack as well. So keep that in mind when using it. Don't use it against somebody who can immediately drop you. Now, the final ability at level 2 that we're going to talk about is Dangersense. This one I don't see talked about much. It's kind of interesting how it's not talked about, but it's really helpful. Dangersense gives you advantage on dexterity saving throws. You get to roll twice if a evil wizard throws a spell at you that takes a dexterity saving throw. You get to roll twice when a trap tries to fall on you. And you roll low the first time, well, you have advantage. Maybe you'll make the second throw. That's amazing. People don't talk about it. I don't understand why not. But there is a caveat to it, and probably this is why. You have to see the effect or who started the effect to have this advantage. So in other words, you have to see the spell coming or the wizard who cast it. Traps can probably sometimes get past this because of this, but that all depends on your game master and how he treats it. Talk to him, find out. You might be able to roll a perception check to see if you saw it coming. It happens. It's crazy, and it's D&D. And that's just when it comes down to. And that's most of the abilities the Barbarian gets at second level if you don't take anything fancy or you're not homebrewing anything. And so we just kind of move on to the stereotypes that the Barbarian has. And although these stereotypes can be fun, they can kind of get annoying because one is just like dumb. Just dumb. The Barbarian's dumb in everybody's stereotype. It can be funny, it can be hilarious, and it can get annoying or tiring or old. It just happens. Or another one is they're just like expected to be violent, and then they're this super sweet kind of teddy bear person. You know, that huge intimidating person that's like, oh, actually really, really nice. That's another stereotype that they fall into. I think a different way you could play the Barbarian is the patient man who chooses when to be angry. And that makes sense to me because if you look at the Barbarian's abilities, on paper, he gets to choose when to rage and take half damage and get all these extra things added onto their stats. A person who's angry out all the time and has a bad temper won't be able to do that, I wouldn't think. So I'm saying, think of that patient man who you see. And then you saw him snap once and it was horrifying. I'm thinking that's what you do for the Barbarian. And you could even make the snap not like loud. Have you ever seen somebody get angry? You know they're angry, but they react quietly. They don't scream or yell. They just turn around and just deck whoever that made them mad. I think that would be cool because everybody always plays them as loud and boisterous when they rage and all that, and not just out for the kill. And in combat, I think that would be cool because it would make your Barbarian a little bit different than most of them. He wouldn't be loud and obtrusive. He would be just dangerous. And that kind of does it because I don't have any other ideas for Barbarian. However, if you have ideas for how to play Barbarian, just put it in the comments. Let me know because I really love new ideas and ideas that aren't the stereotype or just slightly different takes on the stereotype. Next week, we'll be looking at the Cleric, which is a little bit more complicated than the Barbarian, but it'll be a fun look anyways. Until then, just kind of let me know what you thought of the video also in the comments. Give me a like, that'd be fun. Subscribe to the NWTV7. We have more than just my show here. We have a lot of shows. One's at least on travel and one's on photography. So if you're also interested in those things, take a look at those. Until then, who will you be?